Good morning, and welcome to the Lone Star Weekly Business Hour. Your host, Rick Schissler, is a Silver Fox advisor who personally has over 40 years of experience as a serial entrepreneur. So sit back, pull out your pad and pencil, and get ready to take notes as we join Rick Schissler in his Lone Star Weekly Business Hour.
Good morning. This is Rick Schissler, your Silver Fox advisor, welcoming you to this week's Weekly Business Hour. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank the Silver Fox Advisors for being our show sponsor. As a Silver Fox Advisor, they share their knowledge, experience, and skills, thus allowing their business clients to improve their growth and profitability in a cost-effective manner. If you need a business mentor or consultant, go to www.silverfoxadvisors.org, or you can contact me direct at 713-343-3718. And let me remind you here at the beginning of the show that you can always call in and either talk to us direct or talk to the engineer, and we'll answer your questions. And that number is 936-649-5747. Well, Dick, what's going on this week at Lone Star?
There's a lot of community events going on here in the area. A couple of them I want to highlight on. This Thursday opens up the First Thursday concert series here in downtown Conroe over at Heritage Park. Every first Thursday till all the way to September, there's going to be a live music presentation at 7 p.m. Opening up will be the Conroe Symphony Winds. It's free for everybody, and just make sure to arrive on time and hear some good music. Also, this week we're giving away tickets on the Mark and Cindy Show to Friday's performance of the Performing Arts Society of Montgomery County for Montgomery's Got Talent, featuring local Montgomery talent. I guess, I don't know how to describe it, but they're all acts. So it's not just singing. There's acts involved. That's 4 free tickets going to be given away on the Mark and Cindy Show. So make sure to stay tuned to them tomorrow at 10 a.m. on OurLoneStar.com.
Well, I got one question for you, Dick. Do you think anybody will juggle milk bottles this year?
I know, actually, it was funny. We did a prank call to them asking if we could bring our alligator wrangler and if they could host an alligator on stage, and they said no. So
well, I still think that's a great event. I encourage anyone in the community out there that's listening today to think about it. And both events, the Thursday night concerts here in the park, starting out with the Symphony Orchestra, great opportunity to bring your family out, bring your own box lunch, so to speak, and enjoy some great music. And as you know, if you've attended before, there's a variety of music throughout the series all year long, so check it out. There will be something that everyone will enjoy on at least one Thursday night. I'm going to start the show off today. We haven't done this in a couple of shows, but I went back in my archives and did a lot of research this past week, and I think there's some business issues that are starting to kind of come to the top of the pile, if you will. And the first one, and I think you need to be aware of this, you need to start thinking about it for your business if you have one or more employees, particularly if you have more than 15 employees, by the way. That seems to be kind of a benchmark, and that's paid leave. That issue's been out there for a long time, where the government actually comes in this case the federal government, because in Texas our state government has not shown a propensity to deal with these kind of issues, and I think that's a plus personally, because I'm a free market guy, you know, as you listen to the show. But the paid leave issue is raising its head at the government level, and something happened recently that I think will cause it to move along and potentially become an issue that might even get a vote at some point in Congress either this year or next year, and that's Microsoft. Microsoft has mandated that their business vendors, they have over 2,000 vendors, as you can imagine, that their business vendors will all offer paid leave in order to do business with Microsoft. Now, after you've picked yourself up, you've heard that. This is a case of big corporate America reaching out and saying, hey, the government's not doing anything, but we feel it's an important social issue, so we're going to take it and do something with it. Now, in Microsoft's case, so you're clear, and this is just like any regulation that ever comes about, there's 15 different variations. Theirs is 15 days of paid vacation and sick time. Or paid days off, as I like to call it. And I happen to be a proponent, again, in a free market scenario of just using paid days off. Let the employee decide what they want to do with their time. But it's 15 days off vacation illness is what Microsoft is saying, and they exempt any company with less than 50 employees. Now, I don't think that number is really that important. I will tell you, though, that in Washington, and this has been going on for some time, we've had bills introduced. There's currently bills in the tray, if you will. In this case, Senator Patty Murray, Democrat from Washington, and Rosa DeLauro, a Democrat Congresswoman from Connecticut, have introduced the Healthy Families Act. Keep an eye on that legislation if you're reading and you see that. Take note of it. Their act would go down to 15 employees or more, and that's why I mentioned that number. If you have 15 or more employees, and eventually that number may even go lower. They want to mandate 7 days of paid sick leave. And again, this issue's out there and it's bubbling up. And it was interesting, I came across an article by Jeremy Whitner, who's a staff writer for Inc. magazine, one of my favorite publications. And he interviewed a few people and got their take on this. And one of them was a business, second generation family business. They have 30 full-time employees. They're in the contracting business. And the son who owns the business now pointed out, he says, it would cost me about $20,000 a year to meet the proposed federal requirement, the bill that Patty Murray, Senator Murray has proposed, $20,000 a year. And he says, I don't know that I can really afford that because you know how competitive our industry is. So we've got another opportunity here that the government is looking to mandate how we compensate our employees. And it's kind of interesting to me personally because back in the day, my grandfather, which we were a family business, went through 3-4 generations before we sold the business. He almost was indicted by a federal grand jury right after World War II because they had a freeze in on wages and prices, and he wanted to give paid vacation to his employees. And we're talking about in the early 50s. And look where we've come to. But I mean, he absolutely was a little bit of a hard-headed person, and he felt they deserved some paid time off. And he fought it, thank goodness. Before he was indicted, the law on price, wage, and freeze went away, and things returned to normal. And his employees, I'm happy to say, received paid vacation, and he stayed out of jail. So that was, but that's how things evolve. And now we're going another step further and further on this journey where the government tells us how we compensate our employees. Again, I would just encourage you, keep your ears open, keep your eyes open. I, as you know, again, favor a free market approach. I think the best thing you do in your business is attract the very best people you can, and that may require, and I think it's a good thing, to pay paid time off and let the employee make their own mind up how they use that time, whether it's vacation, sick time, whatever, or they just need a day off. As long as it's planned in advance, just call it paid time off, and you give people so many days, and they earn them as they go. In other words, they work a month, they earn a day, or whatever your policy might be. So that's just something that I wanted to point out to you that you need to be aware of. The second thing is my tip for the day. Interesting thing, again, about government regulation, and this just popped up, and I had not thought about this perspective, but it's there every time government, and this could be government at a federal, national, local level, passes a law that regulates business. There are unintended consequences, it seems like. I have my own opinion of why that happens in general. I'm not sure the federal government, or particularly the federal or state government, understands small business. But a lot of times small businesses are impacted, and we don't even know it as small business people. And one of the things that happened recently, and I'm sure most of you are aware of it, there's been this huge fight or discussion going on for several years, in fact longer, about something called net neutrality. And if you're like me, at first you kind of ignored it, then you started reading about it, but all you read about it is it involved large companies like Comcast, Google, and you're saying, okay, those guys are big, it doesn't affect me, they're fighting over who controls access to the internet, who pays for what, so on and so forth. And then most recently, you saw that the FCC imposed a set of rules very similar to how they regulate utilities. They're going to try to regulate the internet. And there's a lot of strong opposition to that. In fact, there's people who originally were in favor of it, and I'm talking about large companies that all of a sudden have swallowed hard when they realized what it involved, and they're changing their positions. So there's a lot of fight still left in this, probably in the courts. But back to what I want to convey to you. That net neutrality, the control of that net neutrality, impacts you, small business potentially. And there was a great example in a recent U.S. News and World Report online. Jean Card, who has been worked for the government and the Treasury Department in various places, she wrote a little blog about this back on March 26 through U.S. News and World Report, gave an example, a direct example, and then there are many indirect things that come off of it. And this was a story of a small broadband company called Alamo Broadband. They're in San Antonio, and Joe Portman is the owner, and they have 900 customers. Well, the law, as it has now been put in effect administratively by the Federal Communications Commission, will affect this small company. And he will have to comply, Alamo Broadband will have to comply with the law just like Comcast. Now, Comcast has an entire department, and if I had to speculate, probably hundreds of employees to comply with federal laws and rules and regulations. Alamo Broadband has 900 customers. You get the idea? It's probably Joe and maybe one or two other people. And now all of a sudden he's got to comply with regulatory reporting and comply with various laws or face fines, if I had to guess, that are in the thousands of dollars, and potential lawsuits from all kinds of parties. What do you think you would do if you were Joe Portman, that showed up one day? You'd probably just close your business and go find something else to do. The impact to you as a business person is you're getting low-cost internet through Joe Portman and Alamo Broadband. Now, all of a sudden, you've got to go out and find another vendor, most likely at a higher price. And these are some of the unexpected consequences of the federal regulation, government regulation, and the impact on small businesses. Now, Jean in her blog points out something, and I'm not sure I agree with her, but I want to mention it to you. She says, well, why? The question is, why would this apply to small independent businesses? Why would they pass regulation that clearly is directed towards large corporate folks like Comcast and Google and Netflix and people like that, that would come down, trickle down, if you will, and impact small businesses? Well, the bottom line is there are a lot of small independent businesses in America. Koch Industries is the one that she mentioned because of the political implications. But the fact is, kind of like we were talking about paid leave off, maybe they need to draw a line and say, hey, a certain size business is exempt. But this is all about politics, folks, and this is one of the reasons that I encourage all business people to stay involved in the political situation. Too many of us turn our back to what's going on in politics, and at the end of the day, we get swept up in regulation like this. So keep that in mind. It's very important that you stay involved politically in your situation, in your neighborhood, and so on and so forth. And I'm going to leave my comments there, and I'm going to tell you as a lead-in to our special guest that we have with us today, we're going to talk a little bit about government and involvement right here in our own county, Montgomery County. Nelda Luce Blair is with us, and we've got a road bond election coming up, don't we, Nelda?
We absolutely do. May 9th, Saturday election.
Well, and this is a major election for all of us in business and personally that live and work in Montgomery County. So we're going to take a short break right now. When we come back, we're going to talk to Nelda. She's one of the community leaders on this. So please stay with us so you can learn and hopefully become involved and get out and vote.
The largest flying museum in the world is the Commemorative Air Force, a national organization whose mission is to restore, fly, and educate the public about vintage military aircraft and their role in U.S. history. Right here in Spring, Texas, the CAF owns a World War II vintage flying fortress, the B-17 Texas Raiders. Join the iconic bomber and some of her warbird friends at David Wayne Hooks Airport in Spring as they take to the skies for a day of fun and flight on Saturday and Sunday, June 20th and 21st. In addition to the big bomber, you can see a variety of aircraft, like classic trainers or a paratroop transport, and truly touch a piece of history. The whole family can enjoy onboard tours with commentary from the crew. Or you could treat Dad for Father's Day with a once-in-a-lifetime living history flight experience in the seat of a vintage World War II aircraft. For more information, visit us at b17texasraiders.org or call us at 855-FLY-A-B-17. That's 855-359-2217. See you at Hooks Airport on June 20th and 21st.
I'm Andrea Kolsky.
And I'm Heather Hall.
You may have heard of Justice Being Blind.
But what about being blonde?
In our show, Justice is Blonde, we talk about what's going on in Montgomery County at the courthouse behind the scenes.
Hey, Andrea, don't forget about Harris County, too.
And honestly, Heather, nationwide, we cover it all.
Airing every Friday at 11 a.m., you can send in your burning questions to our email, justicesblonde.lonestar@gmail.com.
Or they can look us up on Facebook at Justice is Blonde.
Or they could even call in to the station at 936-647-3776. Although we are discussing the law, we're trying to keep it fun, and we have some awesome guests.
So tune in Friday for some legal fun, laughter, and an hour with the Blantourage.
Until 1995, there were no pulmonary hypertension treatments available. Today, there are 12 medicines for adults, but none have been approved for children with PH. That's why PHA is committed to funding groundbreaking pediatric research. By supporting the Robin J. Barst Pediatric Research and Mentoring Fund, you will strengthen the Pulmonary Hypertension Association's ability to educate and train the next generation of pediatric PH specialists. Make a gift today for the good of all children and their families living with this complex, chronic, and currently incurable lung disease. Together, we can create a bright future and help provide hope for children with PH. Hope for Shannon, Ian, Katie Grace, Maddie, and me, Lucas. The Pulmonary Hypertension Association, empowered by hope. To learn more, visit phassociation.org/barstfund.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Weekly Business Hour, and I'm Rick Schissler, your Silver Fox advisor. And in the studio today, as I mentioned in the last segment, Nelda Luce Blair, one of the great community leaders here in Montgomery County. And we're here today to talk about a very, very important issue that I think impacts businesses as well as individuals, and that's the upcoming election, bond election for improvement to our roads and highways. Nelda, why don't you give us an idea of what it's all about?
The bond issue is, again, on Saturday, May 9th is Election Day. But the bond issue is all about road bonds all over Montgomery County. Projects, 77 different really necessary major thoroughfare projects that require bonds, long-term financing in order to construct. So it's all in Montgomery County. Every registered voter in the county can vote, and they can find out about how important those projects are, not only by listening to you, but also by going to our website, keepmontgomerycountymoving.com.
Well, I think, as I say, as a businessman, as you heard in the last segment, I feel it's critical that business people, not just as individuals, but as business people, get involved in the political process, if you will, or get involved in their government, at least be aware and vote. That's the minimal requirement, in my opinion. And I think this election, I looked through the list, as I mentioned to you before we went on air, as part of my work at the Chamber here in Conroe, and lots of projects all over, as you say. It's not just limited to one part of the county. Obviously, that's important for all our listeners, wherever they're located. What is the main issue, though, for business in passing this bond?
Well, quite honestly, the main issue for everyone, including business because they're taxpayers, is that this is a $350 million road bond, one item on the ballot, and it requires no, I repeat, no tax increase. That is really important to a lot of people in the county. It was important to Commissioners Court and why the Road Bond Committee chose $350 million. In addition to that, as you say, there are projects all over the county, but let me just talk about a couple of them that are important to business. For example, the widening of FM 1097, which runs along the north side of Lake Conroe, will provide access for those employees to come to work in, for example, the Conroe industrial area. It also allows people to get out of Willis a little easier to go to and from work, and it provides access for people to move here and become employees, because some of the biggest problem we have with our growth, of course, that a lot of businessmen know, is hiring the right people to keep up with the growth in their business, and that's important. Another project is the widening of Rayford Road. $60 million of that $350 million goes to the widening of Rayford Road down in South Montgomery County. That is so important for the huge mass development that's going on out there for people to get out, go to work in Houston, go to work in the Conroe area, and in and out is very, very difficult right now. And one last thing, kind of a lesser known project, not really as exciting, but very important for business, is a road around the Lone Star Airport in Conroe. That road will provide direct access to those that are bringing in corporate jets, to those businessmen that need to get in and out because they have businesses here. And although it's not as exciting maybe for just the average resident, it's not in their backyard, right now people that visit Conroe Airport have to basically go the back roads to get in and out. This is a very, very important creation for business because it will bring, hopefully, more people to, more corporate jets to that extension of the runway that we just celebrated last week.
Right. That was a great celebration. Let me back up on a couple of those things and add something. You mentioned the 1097 extension and widening. I'm a good example. My wife and I, we have property out there that we hope to build on in the potentially the near future, sooner than later, in my opinion. But anyway, the point is, major concern is the fact that there's a huge bottleneck getting in and out of that area. And that is a concern of us as a potential resident of Montgomery County. In fact, it might even ultimately be a deal breaker if we couldn't see the traffic issue was being addressed. So I think as business people, we want clients, we want customers, right? I mean,
absolutely. And another one, good example of that is East 105 from Conroe to Cleveland. You know, there's a large amount of development going on. Grand Texas is coming to East County, and around that, a lot of development. Well, those developers are not going to come out there if they can't get access. East 105 is a 2-lane road, and it is a parking lot right now. But it's on this bond issue to be widened.
Well, and the other one that popped up that you mentioned was Rayford. In fact, somebody posted on my Facebook the other day a shot of all the traffic backed up. One of, I think, Donna Wick's people's Sherry Lane, but it's interesting. I did not realize Rayford. I know about the Woodland side of Rayford because I have a sister who lives over there, been going there for years. She was one of the original, she and her husband, original residents of that part of the Woodlands. But the other side, and I'm involved with the YMCA, and in my work there, one of the projects that was discussed, the potential, and I was asked to investigate a little bit, was to build a Y down that way on the east side, if you will. And I said, east side? So I went for a ride, and I said, my gosh, Rayford on both sides now is just blowing and going.
That's
but
right.
Major traffic, I incur, just even in the middle of the day.
Thousands and thousands of people have moved in. More schools are being built. There's another high school being built for the Oak Ridge area, so it's just totally exploded. You're right. And the traffic has exploded with it.
Well, and that, as a business person, that's a great thing. The other individual I think about of this is someone who lives perhaps not within the county, but not in areas that are so jammed up today with traffic. So they say to themselves, why am I in favor of doing this? But the reality is, if the county itself, businesses open, people come, then the improvements are made, taxes are kept lower, but right, I mean, these kind of things, and it's progress. And unless you just want to be a hermit, it will impact you, even though a road improvement's not done in your own backyard.
That's absolutely true. And I will point out that some of the improvements, some of the projects, if you read all of the lists, are actually revamping of an entire road. Maybe not a widening, maybe it's not a heavy traffic road, but it's a terribly dilapidated road that cannot be taken care of in the regular county budget. It requires major financing, and there's quite a few of those projects as well. So even if you don't have traffic in your particular area of your business, you may have roads that really need a lot of work, and that's being addressed as well.
Yeah, and I think that's important is for those who do get involved and want to understand. And that leads me to the next topic I'd like to touch on. A lot of times people kind of shy away from these kind of elections, bond elections. Of course, you've made it abundantly clear there's no tax increase built in, so that's always attractive. But what is the general process that goes into putting this kind of package? In other words, deciding what projects are necessary, because I know a lot of thought, a lot of effort, a lot of outreach went into this. But if you could tell our listeners what went into that process.
Well, it's a several-month-long process. Commissioners Court appointed a road bond committee, 2 people from each precinct and 2 from the county judge. So it was 11 people total because former county judge Barb Sadler also joined us as co-chair. He's my co-chair. So 11 of us started last fall and worked through well over 100 really important projects of well over $1 billion worth of funds that were needed. Of course, we really didn't feel like we could take that to the voters. So our job was to go through each project, work with volunteer engineers, work with the commissioners and their staff, and pare it down to what we thought were really the most needed projects, and pare it down to a figure that commissioners were adamant there'd be no tax increase. So we came up with the 77 projects out of over 100. Every one, more in each precinct, and every precinct has projects. The $350 million was the no tax increase figure, and that's divided per the projects for each precinct.
Well, and again, I think it's important that the voter understand a lot of work. This is not just political, backroom, cigar smoking, as they used to say, type deals being
None
made.
of that happened.
No. And this is important for, I think, folks to understand the process and the opportunity for all parts of the county to participate. And I think you made a figure, I kind of sat back for a second, over $1 billion of projects were brought to the table and had to be pared down. Almost sounds like good budgeting to me, pared down to $350 million.
Absolutely, and by a citizens committee. These weren't a bunch of county employees. They were citizens from all over Montgomery County that came together and made that happen.
Had to be some real give and take.
Absolutely, there was definitely some give and take.
Well, and I think that's healthy in a process, particularly in this, and I think that is important that everybody understand that. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a little break, and when we come back, we're going to visit a little bit more with Nelda about the project that's going on in the bond election, and there's some potential opposition. We're going to talk about that as well, so please stay with us, and we'll be right back with you.
The East Texas Dream Center is in need of your help. We are a nonprofit Christian organization that houses women and children who are trying to get their lives back after being homeless, abused, or addicted. We are conveniently located at 301 South 1st Street, Conroe, Texas, 77301, right here in Montgomery County. Our needs are financial, and every needs of gasoline, cleaning supplies, laundry soap, Lysol, and whatever else God puts in your heart. To help our ladies and children, please consider a donation. You may visit our website at www.easttexasdreamcenter.org. Again, so you don't forget, it's www.easttexasdreamcenter.org. Donations are tax deductible. Remember what Jesus said, with God, nothing is impossible.
The largest flying museum in the world is the Commemorative Air Force, a national organization whose mission is to restore, fly, and educate the public about vintage military aircraft and their role in U.S. history. Right here in Spring, Texas, the CAF owns a World War II vintage flying fortress, the B-17 Texas Raiders. Join the iconic bomber and some of her warbird friends next month at David Wayne Hooks Airport in Spring, Texas, as they take to the skies for a day of fun and flight on Saturday, April 4th. In addition to the big bomber, you can see a variety of aircraft, like classic trainers or a paratroop transport, and truly touch a piece of history. The whole family can enjoy onboard tours with commentary from the crew, or you can take the ultimate living history flight experience and see Houston from the seat of a vintage World War II aircraft. For more information, visit us at b17texasraiders.org or call us at 855-FLY-A-B-17. That's 855-359-2217. See you at Hooks Airport on April 4th.
Tune in to Chamber Chat with your host, Courtney Galley and Samantha Good, with the Conroe Lake Conroe Chamber of Commerce, every first Tuesday of the month at 11 a.m. I'm one of your hosts, Courtney Galley. Samantha and I will chat about the Conroe Chamber's upcoming events and programs for the month. Relax with a cup of joe or your favorite drink for Chamber Chat.
This is Rick Schissler, your Silver Fox advisor, welcoming you back to this week's weekly business hour. And we've been having a great conversation, I think, this morning with Nelda Luce Blair, a great community leader here in Montgomery County, who is out telling people, explaining and teaching us about the upcoming bond election, the road bond election. Nelda, one of the things that has come out, which is not unusual, at least in my experience, is some opposition to the bond election. That's pretty typical when you have a bond election, school bonds, road bonds, whatever kind of bonds might be out there. Tell our listeners what the opposition is and what that's all about.
Oh, absolutely. There's 77 projects, as we said, on the road bond list, and there's opposition to 1 out of 77 projects. It's really the only major, any sort of opposition we've had. It's a small group, but they're very, very vocal about it because it's very emotional for them. And that is the extension of Woodlands Parkway from where it currently ends into FM 2978 all the way to State Highway 249. It is a 6.5-mile extension that's caused a lot of brouhaha down, particularly in the Woodlands. And the idea is that, well, that extension will cause too much traffic on Woodlands Parkway. It will cause Woodlands Parkway to become FM 1960, et cetera, et cetera. Well, those are pretty emotional claims, and I would be worried about that too if that's what I was told. But I will say that we counter each one of those because they're really explainable. Number one, the Woodlands Parkway can never become FM 1960 because it is highly restricted residential. FM 1960 is commercial. And the traffic counts are very, very easy to also explain. For example, your wait time at the Kirkendall-Woodlands Parkway intersection will increase, I have to tell you, by 16 seconds. So the idea is to really educate people about how the Woodlands Parkway extension is a very good thing. For businesses, people are telling me if they work at HP, for example, in the northwestern corner of the greater Houston area, they're going to be able to get there to work much faster by going down this extension and hitting 249. People that like to go to Aggie games, they'll also have a direct connect. And people that need to get into the western side of Houston, they'll have a direct connect. So it's very important. Hurricane evacuation, emergency vehicles. It's all really, really important for the people that live on the west side and not of the Woodlands. And not only that, the people that live in Magnolia are absolutely clamoring for this extension because it's going to make their travel east-west much better.
Well, and I think, you know, what pops into my head when I've read several articles is you talked about the small group, but they're loud and emotional. I have to look at the big picture, and I try to always do that. It's really connecting that part of the county, if you will, in a more efficient manner to the rest of the county, which as business people, which we are a business show today and primarily focusing on that, as a business person, I look at my ability to connect with workers, my ability to connect with clients, customers, and increase my business. And I think that is extremely important. And when I backed up and looked at the map and saw the things or some of the things that you just mentioned, I said, gosh, you've got to do it. You've got to connect. You can't cut yourself off.
Yes,
from
exactly.
The rest of the world, and in that sense, the rest of the county.
And let me mention 2 points to that Woodlands Parkway extension because we talk about it a lot. It comes up a lot in our forums and otherwise. Number one, there were 11 people on this Citizens Road Bond Committee that I mentioned. 10-1 were in favor of that Woodlands Parkway extension. 1 was against it, and actually he resigned from the committee in protest over that and is now opposing the road bond. Secondly, if the road bond fails, it fails as a whole. It is one item on the ballot, for or against. And if against succeeds, all 77 projects fail and nothing will be done for the entire county.
Well, and I think that's very important for our listeners to understand because you and I were talking about it. One of my impressions as a lifelong resident of Harris County and Houston particularly, and I grew up born in a neighborhood where 610 South was a field, so I've seen growth with my own eyes. The first freeway, the Gulf Freeway, was built after I was born. So I've seen the transportation issues, particularly road construction issues. And I've always felt in my last 2 or 3 years now that I've been working in Montgomery County and hope to live here shortly, is that Montgomery County always felt was a little bit ahead of the growth. And you mentioned that really there hadn't been a road bond election that's passed in 10 years.
That's right. It's amazing that we have been able to stay up. I'm not so sure we're ahead, but we're definitely at least up with the growth. But we're one of the fastest growing counties in the entire nation. Very, very soon we're going to be 1 million people in Montgomery County, and keeping up with that for mobility is not an easy task. We had a road bond election that failed in 2011 due to a lot of the same opposition that we have to this road bond. The last bond election we had that worked was 2005, 10 years ago. So we've had no major funding for major projects in 10 years of growth. Now you tell me how much we've grown during that decade.
Well, and that's something I think people really need to hear is you've had no funding in 10 years. The growth is there. The numbers, I mean, phenomenal. The projections of growth in this county are phenomenal. And the fact is the roads have either been equal to, in my opinion, a little ahead, because I see a few roads that I can still see development coming and they're already there, but you're exactly right. That is a dead end for growth. Because it'll be so congested so fast, and people will vote. As I mentioned, my wife and I, looking at the 1092 area, we bought our property 10 years ago, but now there's all this congestion, and we're having a little bit of a second thought. But if we see the road's going to be expanded, then that's cool. This will cause businesses to suffer in general. I believe throughout the county, and particularly the roads that are being directly impacted by the work to be done. So we need to pay attention, folks out there. You business people need to really pay attention to this issue.
Absolutely. And let me say, businesses that want to come into this county, I mean, there are some people that are saying enough growth already, but businesses coming into this county, what they bring are jobs, what they bring are tax base increase, what they bring is they pay corporate taxes, and that lowers our property tax. And that's what a lot of the connection that people don't make sometimes, especially in the Woodlands, because the sales tax is more than half of the budget of the Woodlands Township, the government in the Woodlands now. And if that sales tax does not continue to grow, then property taxes will grow instead.
Well, and you're exactly right. That's the balance. And the other thing is, it's kind of a personal issue to my heart. My wife and I were blessed with a number of children. And if there aren't jobs for our children, and we're blessed our children do live close by, they will leave. Now, some children need to leave, and I'm not against that. But if there's no opportunity, and how many times have we read articles in states with smaller populations, rural communities, and there's just nothing for them to do. And you've got to have that influx of young people into your economy. That spreads out to everybody. And if you stop that or stymie that, and I think that this, again, in a long distance or a long period of time, plays right into that. It's just part of the natural, normal growth of a community called Montgomery County, and it's so important. Let me ask you this. One of the things that popped in my mind, May 9th is Election Day. May elections, generally speaking, throughout the country always have low voter turnout. How do you plan to counter that?
Well, we're doing that just with you, for example, right now. Businessmen, we need you to get your employees out. We need you to educate them on how important this is, that they actually go vote. Because that small but vocal and afraid of this road bond minority that I talked about, I promise you they're going to vote, and they're going to vote against this road bond and against all 77 projects. So if you want mobility to keep moving in Montgomery County, we have to get the folks that are for it to realize how important it is to actually go vote. You know, your Rotary Club, they need to be voting. Again, your employees, your coworkers, people that you work with in Montgomery County, other businesses, they need to go vote.
Let me ask you, and this is kind of something I've had in my mind, get a little specific. The east part of the county is kind of catching up, if you will. You mentioned one of the great projects that's being built over there and the need. What is the East County? If I'm in the East County, again, a lot less development, but it's coming. All you have to do is drive down 59 and see all the property for sale signs, and you see some buildings starting to happen. What do I tell these folks? I mean, they're on the list.
East County also has a school bond election and another election on May 9th, so that's going to be very helpful to get people out. But let me say this. Commissioner Jim Clark, who is the Precinct 4 Commissioner for East County, has a great list of road bond projects. By the way, they're all on our website, keepmontgomerycountymoving.com. You can see all the project lists. It includes things like the widening of Sorters Road. It includes the widening of Old Houston Road, the widening that I mentioned earlier of the 2-lane Highway 105 from Conroe to Cleveland. All of those are incredibly important. He's got some very, very good projects. Of course, we had to cull some of them because we had to pare it down to 77. But he has $85 million out of this bond issue that he's going to be spending on East County to get them. And some of those that we mentioned that were roads that are heavily traveled that may not be widened, they just need overlay or they need repair for the whole road. He'll be doing that.
Well, that's something else that we really haven't talked about. This is, folks, just not about widening a road or putting in a new road. It's about, overlays. I call that
major
repair maintenance,
projects.
Major maintenance and repair, which is critical, especially if you're driving down a bumpy road, right?
Right, exactly. And there has been some folks who have said, gee, maintenance and repair really ought to come out of the county budget. And it does. Normal wear and tear does come out of the county budget. We're not talking about normal. We're talking about major thoroughfare renovation.
Well, and that's due to the increased traffic, right?
Exactly. Of course, it's due to the growth, meaning increased traffic, and increased businesses that are using our roads. We need to make them pliable for them because businesses will not continue to come if we don't.
Well, and that's one of the things you mentioned, your website, and some of the things that we've learned here at the station. For example, the school districts I mentioned, Willis, Montgomery have a program here because people coming to this area, particularly businesses, and that's one thing we have to really, as business people, be aware. They go to the web before they make a decision to move here, whether it's individuals. If they're going to move to Montgomery County, they check out the school districts, because I've had both of those school districts tell me unequivocally that their website is critical to people choosing to live in their area, and I would dare say for businesses to move. I mean, we have our economic development councils, but that is one of the first places people go to look, is to see what's going on. And in this case, for the road bond, you've got lots of information on that website.
We do. Keep MontgomeryCountyMoving.com. You can also go to Vote for Road Bonds, voteforroadbonds.com. We're also on Facebook under Vote for Road Bonds, or you can search Keep Montgomery County Moving. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, whatever you want out there in social media. But check out the website for some really good information. We also have pages and pages of frequently asked questions with factual answers.
Well, and again, that's important. We're not here, I don't think, this morning, Nelda, I don't think you are, or I, saying, hey, you got to go vote for this. Don't worry about what's the details, but give you access, give you facts, give you information so that when you go into the voting booth and pull the lever, if you will, using the old-fashioned term, that you know what you're voting for, and it's a positive change for Montgomery County, for you, your families, your businesses.
So get educated and get out there and vote.
Well, and I congratulate you, by the way, if I can, you and the group that's behind getting people out. You've got a lot of material out there for people to look at. We'll kind of summarize and tell, you've told it off and on through this, but to kind of bring things down to a close, why people, it's so critical that they get out on May 9th. And also you mentioned early voting, April 27th through May 5th. And they can find out where to vote, I'm sure. How do they do that?
Actually, they can do that on our website as well.
Okay.
KeepMontgomeryCountyMoving.com tells you where to vote early. Any registered voter can vote any early voting site during early voting, April 27th through May 5th. Of course, Saturday, May 9th is the election. You vote at your regular precinct poll. By the way, there's a brand new one on Rayford Road that we've gotten opened. $350 million in road bonds, 77 projects, one item on the ballot, no tax increase. That's the important parts.
And I think it's also important to note, as maybe as a footnote, but it's important to me as a voter, the only opposition is to 1 out of 77 projects. And so they all stand or fall, and this county needs it. This is me as a business advisor advising businesses. It's been 10 years since we've gone in and upgraded, if you will, improved our roads in a fashion that only a bond election can do. So I encourage you, Nelda, I deeply appreciate you coming in today and telling us where to get information and also supplying us with some great information. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rick. My pleasure.
And one more time, and we've done it 4 or 5, give people those website addresses again, please.
Keep MontgomeryCountyMoving.com or voteforroadbonds.com. More information than you can look at in an entire day.
And the last thing is, please, folks, go out and vote. May 9th, or early voting, April 27th through May 5th. So go vote. All you business people listening, get your employees to vote, your organizations, as Nelda mentioned, Rotary Club, Lions Club, encourage people to go out and vote for this, get educated, and then go vote. We're going to take a short break, and then we're going to come back and talk a little bit about silverfox.org. So please stay with us.
The East Texas Dream Center, conveniently located at 301 South 1st Street, Conroe, Texas 77301, relies solely upon the generosity of those who are led to contribute. We are a Christian organization that houses women and children who are trying to get their lives back after being homeless, abused, or addicted. Your financial contributions are tax deductible. We are recognized by the IRS as a tax-exempt organization under Section 501c3. With faith, hope, education, and a lot of love, we seek to lead individuals towards self-sufficiency so they can become contributing members of society. Your generous gift will help women and children in our community. Please visit our website to find ways to donate or volunteer. Our website is www.easttexasdreamcenter.org. Again, the website is www.easttexasdreamcenter.org. A telephone number where you can reach us is 281-601-6800. Thank you and have a blessed day.
I'm Andrea Kolsky.
And I'm Heather Hall.
You may have heard of Justice Being Blind.
But what about being blonde?
In our show, Justice is Blonde, we talk about what's going on in Montgomery County at the courthouse behind the scenes.
Hey, Andrea, don't forget about Harris County, too.
And honestly, Heather, nationwide, we cover it all.
Airing every Friday at 11 a.m., you can send in your burning questions to our email, justicesblonde.lonestar@gmail.com.
Or they can look us up on Facebook at Justice is Blonde.
Or they could even call in to the station at 936-647-3776. Although we are discussing the law, we're trying to keep it fun, and we have some awesome guests.
So tune in Friday for some legal fun, laughter, and an hour with the Blantourage.
The largest flying museum in the world is the Commemorative Air Force, a national organization whose mission is to acquire, restore, fly, and educate the public about U.S. military aircraft and their role in U.S. history. Right here in Spring, Texas, the CAF owns an exceptional World War II warbird, the Flying Fortress Texas Raiders. Residing at David Wayne Hooks Airport and maintained by the Gulf Coast wing of the CAF, the Big Bomber is regularly opened to the public for tours and flights. The Gulf Coast Wing is a non-profit organization made up of volunteers who maintain, fly, and travel with Texas Raiders to promote the mission of the CAF. The Big Bomber has traveled all over the United States, reuniting veterans and the public with the historic World War II aircraft. Would you like to know more about taking a walk-through tour or a ride in the iconic Flying Fortress? Perhaps you'd like to learn about volunteering to actually work with the crew on the aircraft. Go to www.b17texasraiders.org or join us on Facebook at facebook.com/B17TexasRaiders. Or to speak to us, call 1-855-FLY-A-B17.
Hi, this is Erica Tullis, Executive Director of the Breast Cancer Charities of America. The Breast Cancer Charities of America is a national nonprofit organization with our headquarters in the Woodlands, Texas. We focus on non-invasive breast cancer research and helping the true patient that is going through breast cancer. Through our Help Now Fund, we help women pay the rent and utilities while going through their breast cancer treatment. It's unlike any other program that truly is out there. We are here to help the woman. Our phone number is 936-231-8460. For more information or to get involved or to even make a donation, please visit our website, www.igopink.org.
Welcome back to the Weekly Business Hour. This is Rick Schissler, your Silver Fox advisor. Welcome you to the final segment of today's show. And again, thank you to Nelda Luce Blair for coming in and educating us business people on the business aspect of the upcoming road bond election. And remember, that's on May 9th. It impacts all our businesses throughout Montgomery County, so it's critical that you go out and get educated and go out and vote in that election. I would like to take the final few minutes of today's show to talk a little bit about Silver Fox Advisors. And I have two reasons for doing this. One is I'd like the listeners of this program to know a little bit more about Silver Foxes. But the second and perhaps more important reason for doing this from my perspective is to let you know, in my opinion, how important it is that all business people, whether you're a sole proprietorship or you have 100 or 200 or 500 employees, seek out a mentor. You cannot get involved in business today without someone on the outside helping you, mentoring you from an inside perspective, confidentially. I don't think a spouse makes a good mentor. They need to be talked about, particularly if you're an entrepreneur starting a business. A spouse needs to be on board with you. Don't misunderstand that. But we all need mentors, and I've been blessed throughout my career to have a series of mentors and consultants and people I've engaged and either paid or they did it as a favor because depending on the issue, it varies on how you approach that. But I think it's very important. So I'm going to take some time over the next few weeks to talk about Silver Fox Advisors and let you know a little bit more about what they do. And perhaps you will have an interest in contacting us because it's a variety of individuals that make up Silver Fox. And I know there's a man or woman who's a Silver Fox advisor that could help you. But at the very least, again, I want to stimulate your thinking about finding a mentor for yourself, because mentors are all around us if we just reach out and ask people. First of all, what is Silver Fox Advisor? Silver Fox Advisor is an association of corporate CEOs, senior consultants, visionaries, business leaders, and former entrepreneurs, of which I was, who since 1986 have been providing mentoring and consulting to businesses of all sizes located throughout the greater Houston area, and that includes Montgomery County. Members of Silver Fox Advisors, as I mentioned to you, have diverse backgrounds. We come from all backgrounds, from all parts of the United States. We all just have one thing in common in that regard. We ended up in Houston. But we bring all kinds of information and have developed all kinds of experiences and in-depth strategies and solutions for our clients. We engage each client individually. This is not a book that we bring to the table that works one-size-fits-all book. You'll find that with a lot of coaching folks that are out there. They have a book, they have handouts and things that just work for everybody, at least in their point of view. But with a Silver Fox, we don't do that. And most of us, like myself, will do a no-fee introductory session because we want to get to know what your issues are, and we want you to get to know us, because basically we hope to build a relationship. And in order to do that, we have to like who we're dealing with. We have to build trust and all the things that go into a strong relationship. So there needs to be a good fit. So typically, most of us will not charge for the first hour, hour and a half visit, so we can kind of size each other up, so to speak. And if you're experiencing any kind of difficulties in your business today, they're not going to go away or get better with time. That's just like with personal relationships. You have things that need to be addressed in your business. It may relate to revenue. It may relate directly to profitability, or somewhere in between. Maybe you have challenges with employees. Maybe you have challenges with vendors, clients, finding new customers. I mean, everything related to business. Maybe you don't know where to take your business. You want someone to help you think outside the box and morph your business into something maybe that it's not today. And that's one of the biggest topics I personally see, because business is changing quickly. The world around us is changing very quickly. And there's all kinds of tools available, a lot through the internet and so on and so forth, that change the nature of business. And you want to be sure that your business doesn't go the way of the buggy whip business when cars and automobiles became so popular at the beginning of the 1900s. So that's what Silver Foxes help you do. They act as a guide and a mentor to help you face those issues, talk about them, and find the right fit for your business. If you're planning to grow or sell your business, that's another good reason to seek out a Silver Fox. I do a lot of planning. I have a lot of clients that come to me and say, you know, I want to exit my business. And hopefully they're not coming to me and they want to exit next week or next month, because a good exit of a business takes a period of time. And that depends on your goals and objectives. Obviously, if you have health issues, personal issues, and you need to work quicker to it. But if you really want to maximize the return that you receive for your business when you go to sell it, then it takes a period of time, 1, 2, 3 years sometimes, to maximize it. It just depends on what your goals are. So I work with a lot of people developing exit strategies. And quite frankly, the Silver Fox as an organization believes your exit strategy starts the day you open the business. So when I work with startup businesses, I put into part of our planning a exit strategy, so that when I make decisions, important decisions as I work through the years in my business, whether it be 1 year, 5 years, depending on how long I'm going to keep the business, or a lifetime, I always check off against my exit strategy so that I know that decision will dovetail right into what I plan to do when I sell the business. So that's important that you do that. So again, I encourage you to take a look at Silver Fox Advisors. We've got a real good website with lots of information. And on that website, you can take a look at each advisor. You can click on it and look at their background, their resume, biography, if you will. And typically you'll find 1 or 2 or more people who seem to have a background that would fit your need, whether it's marketing, whether it's expanding your business to other cities, whether it's taking your business on the internet. You will find people that have that particular expertise. There's 40 some odd foxes on there. So just go to the website, take a minute and look. And again, if you're not interested in working with the Silver Foxes, because again, we charge for our services. We do a lot of pro bono work for universities, entrepreneurship programs, and groups like that. And I'll be talking about that in a future program. But we do charge. But the encouragement, the big overall encouragement, is for all of you to find a mentor, someone you can talk with, consult with on a regular basis, hopefully, or as often as each of you have the time, because it will enhance and improve your business. And if you've listened to this show for a while, you've heard the folks that have come on this show that have successful businesses. A number of them have told you that. They attribute a lot of their success in some cases to the mentors that they've been working with. So again, go to the Silver Fox website. How do I do that? It's silverfox.org. Very easy, silverfox.org. Click on the page. If you find somebody, you can make an appointment online, or you can call them. There'll be a phone number there, email address. Make an appointment and just talk about what your issues are. And again, most of us don't charge for that first appointment, so find out if it might fit with you too. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you about Silver Fox, and I want to thank the Silver Foxes again for sponsoring the show. I also want to thank Nelda Luce Blair again for taking time to come in and educate us on the impact on Montgomery businesses of the upcoming road bond election. And ladies and gentlemen, most of all, I want to thank you for joining us this morning, and I hope you enjoy a successful and productive week. And until next week, keep your dial right where it is on Montgomery County's community radio, irlonestar.com, coming to you from the heart of downtown Conroe. And for the best in talk, entertainment, and great country music, always turn to our website at irlonestar.com, where you can always keep your eyes on the Lone Star.